everybody, right? I'm very lucky. We have a 20-member board, very active group of folks in the association, and we really do it all for you. We put it together so that we have great functions, networking, education events, all sorts of different things. If you're not too familiar with us, we usually run one educational event, or we try to almost every month, either live or virtual. Many times, these very talented gentlemen, AJ and Charles, are running 2 events every month. So you can capture either a live event, an online event on our website. If you look at ACHE of South Florida, we list out all our events, and you can find our calendar there. In fact, we're updating our website. We're going to make it even easier to be able to register for events and look at live calendars and really see how you can kind of put these things to use a little bit better. But we're very excited about that. On top of the educational events, we do lots of networking events. Our next networking event is actually going to be planned in Boca Raton. We're kind of going between north and south. If you live in Miami, some of you may have attended our networking event down south. Paul, the restaurant that we held it in was?
Booyah, Doral.
In Doral. Say it one more time.
Booyah.
Booyah. All right. And we had probably about 60 some odd people there almost.
Yeah, closer.
Quite a bit. So the events get a lot of attendance. So I encourage you, if you're just getting involved, check out our website. If you also are not aware, we have a very active LinkedIn page. And later you'll see a link, a QR code, that will also take you to that page. So I encourage you to follow us on LinkedIn. I encourage you to check out our website. So lots of education, lots of networking. And I mention our board because, believe it or not, very shortly, in September, we'll start doing our nomination process for 2027. And I've had a lot of people ask me, how do I get more involved? How do I get more engaged in our healthcare community in ACHE? It's not just about the education and networking, it's about also a lot of the collaboration we do as a board. So if you're interested, start watching on the website. September is when we start the nomination process, and you'll see a lot of great things for that as well. We can do none of this without our sponsors. So I want to first off thank Vitas tonight for hosting us and going ahead and helping to set all this up for us. A round of applause. I want to thank Jared and Melissa and the whole team here at Bethesda Hospital East. They are an amazing group of leaders and professionals, and they are hosting us tonight, so a round of applause for them. I kind of laugh because I partner with Melissa on food and nutrition in our North region here, and I think they kind of showed us up tonight. This dinner was pretty amazing, Jared. So, I mean, everybody is enjoying. So thank you for that, and thank you, Melissa. And Tamesh, I don't know where he went, but I want to thank him. And certainly, I want to thank all the folks that are in the kitchen and on the line helping to serve us tonight. We really appreciate you, and thank you for doing that. Round of applause for that, guys. All right. I'm gonna pause for a minute. I highlight Vitas because they're our sponsor tonight, but I want to make sure we recognize all these people. Please take a look up on the screen at our platinum sponsors, Aramark, Beck, USQ Care Solutions, Memorial Healthcare, Anesthesia Ops Consultants, NSU Florida, the H. Wayne Huizenga College of Business and Entrepreneurship. I want to thank my own organization, Baptist Health, for being a gold sponsor, the Executive Masters of Health Administration program at FAU. We have U Health present, the University of Miami Health System. Cressa, Vitas already we mentioned, and again, appreciate them hosting tonight. Broward Health, Nicholas Children's Hospital, and the Blink Agency, all our gold sponsors. And our silver sponsors, Cleveland Clinic, Jackson Health System, again, University of Miami, Department of Health and Management Policy, the education group. We have Genentech and Miami-Dade College, all as silver sponsors. And finally, rounding us out, HOPCO as our bronze sponsors. So thank you again to all of our sponsors. No, these are not mug shots. This is our actual board this year. So this is all of our board members. We're very grateful to them. We have representation from all over South Florida. and they do an amazing job. I couldn't do it without them, so they are truly an engaged, dynamic board. I want to show you a little bit about how strong ACHE is. On a national level, over 50,000 members, 76 chapters, offering a whole bunch of education, 300,000 hours of education. They get about $8.7 million web visits a year, 152,000 social media followers, 8.8 million different communications that go out, podcasts, 142,000, and media mentions, quite a few, 7.7 thousand. When you look at ACHE of South Florida, we're pretty proud of our presence. We have over 1,200 members strong. We have 131 fellows that are board certified, and that has increased recently. Do we have anybody that just went through, that's in the room, that got their fellow and passed the exam? It's not an easy exam at all. But who are our fellows in the room in general? Who's passed their boards? So quite a few. Congratulations on that. We have 242 student members and over 6,000 followers on our LinkedIn, thanks to Adrian. You'll see Adrian running around with his camera, and he has done a great job in helping us really promote the chapter. So Adrian, thank you for all you do. This is what we're about. Our vision is to be the preeminent professional society for leaders dedicated to advancing health. Our mission is to advance our members and healthcare leadership excellence to, again, benefit the healthcare communities we serve. And we're about integrity, leadership, lifelong learning, and about inclusion and making sure everybody feels welcome at our association. This is kind of the map that we set up as a board to make sure that we keep engagement and get people volunteering. We have actually had a very successful year. I had one of the women in the room tonight asked me, how do I get more involved? We're establishing committees of the board. We've been doing that all year. We're finding more ways for people to get involved. It's not just about coming to a networking or an educational event. We're trying to do a lot of different activities. Right now we're working on one with Feeding South Florida, trying to get us as a group together more often to do just more things around the community and for the community. The education I've talked a lot about, the networking and fellowship I've talked about, and obviously staying connected to support our teams and help people grow and develop. These are those QR codes. If you're not following us on LinkedIn, you can pull your phones out. If you scan that QR code for LinkedIn, it'll open up our page. It's the easiest way to follow us and kind of link to our website. And the second QR code is actually for the website, and we'll get you to that address so you can save that as well. And I'll pause there for a quick sec. All right, and very important, if you are either a fellow or are going and striving to be a fellow to get your credit hours, please make sure you scan this QR code to sign in for tonight. Even if you went ahead and initialed a paper, that's our backup. This is how it goes right to ACHE. So if you scan that QR code, it's around the room and on the tables, as well as that evaluation that we'll ask you to do at the end. It's important, and that way you'll get your credit as well. All right. And with that, it is my pleasure to introduce Melissa Emerson. She is the Chief Operating Officer of this wonderful hospital, and she's going to tell you a little bit about the hospital and about Baptist Health.
Thank you, Brian. I really love coming to these events. Besides the obvious educational experience that we'll have tonight, it's a really nice opportunity to see old friends, old colleagues, meet new friends. And for those of you who I don't know, my name is Melissa Emerson, as Brian said. I'm the Chief Operating Officer here at Bethesda. I've been here for about 2.5 years, but interestingly, I started my healthcare career here over 20 years ago. When I was in nursing school, I was working here as a nurse extern. So Bethesda has some deep roots for me, and I'm really happy to take a moment and brag about it. So overall, Bethesda is part of the Baptist Health system. If you're not familiar with it, we are a 12-hospital system, panning 4 different counties, starting down in the Florida Keys all the way up here to Palm Beach County. We have 200 plus outpatient centers, urgent cares, freestanding emergency departments, and 29,000 employees with 4,500 affiliated physicians. We're nationally known for our institutes, which are our cancer institutes, heart and vascular, brain and spine, and orthopedic. We are the most awarded healthcare system in South Florida for the last 15 years, with 63 awards and nationally recognized as the top 10% in the nation. As you can see here, this is South Florida. We have all those little dots on the map are different Baptist-affiliated either hospitals, institutes, outpatient centers, and physician practices. And a little closer to home, we have some new areas that you might have seen in your travels. We have a new ER in the West Boca area. We have in Bryan, my brother's hospital area, we have a new Proton Center. If you're not familiar, Boca Raton Regional Hospital is part of the Baptist Health Network. So we are family. And Boca Regional will have their brand new tower in 2028-ish.
Our new tower?
Yeah. Sooner?
Hopefully, yes.
Well, we always like to forecast a little longer, don't we? So that we can overpromise, right? We don't want to. And then in Royal Palm, pardon?
They're supposed to be alive in 26.
We're family. Remember, Jared, we're family.
If I open that tower in 2028, I may be asking for an opportunity. 2026, and we're actually due to open it for a first patient in September.
Awesome. A lot to be proud of there. A lot of construction and visited the Boca campus. And we have coming in the Royal Palm area medical center soon. A little closer to home, more specifically here at Bethesda, we span over two campuses. You are sitting at Bethesda East, and directly to the west, we are Bethesda West. And we too have all of the institutes that Baptist has: cancer care, brain and spine, heart and vascular, and orthopedic, along with our maternity and NICU care. We have a level 3 NICU and a level 4 by Joint Commission accreditation maternity care, which means we get to take care of the sickest moms before, during, and after delivery. We do have a partnership with FAU Consortium, so we have our graduate medical students here for internal medicine, general surgery, and emergency services. And what makes all of this the most awarded healthcare system is our people. So you hear some pictures here of our fabulous team that make it all possible. Whether we're collaborating together to make sure that we have sustainable energy from our central energy plant, to celebrating milestones for our tiniest little babies, or celebrating birthdays with our patients. We all get it done together, and in the support from our community too. We like to make sure that we give back, and we're very active there. And speaking of community, we have the backing of a lot of our community members here in Boynton Beach and the surrounding area who have donated over $40 million to help us renovate our emergency room. So we wanted to make sure that our award-winning care has an award-winning aesthetic to go along with it, but it'll also help improve the flow for our physicians and our nurses and allow for better care to be done there. And then across the hall, if you're familiar with our campus, we're renovating our imaging area also. So that's about a $16 million project. This is the pictures of a portion that's already completed with brand new state-of-the-art CT machines. And later this year, we're going to open the rest of the imaging department with a brand new MRI so that we can expand capacity to the community for imaging for cardiac and prostate, and as well as a brand new wide plate machine for IR. And the bragging continues with just a couple more, I promise. We have the Florida Resuscitation, Primary Florida Resuscitation Care Center of Excellence. designation for our emergency room. We have advanced in technology in our surgery area, as well in our ICU. We implemented an eICU for our cardiovascular ICU. So not to take away from the bedside, but really to help complement it and put some AI into it so we can look and predict if patients are going to take a turn before it happens. So we're really excited about that. And our CVICU was recently nominated, or they received the Beacon Award, Gold Beacon. If our Chief Nursing Officer was here, there's a big significance. So we are the gold recipient in this county. So a lot to be proud of. If you want to hear more about Bethesda and Baptist Health, I'll be here all night, and looking forward to meeting more of you. Thank you. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. And again, just want to thank all of our sponsors, again, VITAS tonight and Bethesda Hospital. Now, we get to kick off the next fun portion of the evening. Financial sustainability of healthcare organizations, a true plan of action. I'm going to kick it off with Dr. Richard Klaus, and he will take care of introducing the panel and going through our fun-filled evening.
Thank you so much. I guess we can start with Alex. Talk a little about yourself and where you come from and what you're doing now.
Sure. Thanks, Rich. Well, good evening, everybody. I'm Alex Fernandez. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for VITAS Healthcare. Thank you for the opportunity to sponsor the event tonight. For those of you guys that don't know about VITAS Healthcare, we're one of the nation's largest hospice operators. As of today, we have slightly over 24,000 patients under service. We operate in 15 states, including the District of Columbia. We were founded in 1978 here in South Florida on Fisher Island. Our founders were actually on the Capitol staff, so participated in writing the benefit when it was enacted into law. So we have deep roots here in the state of Florida and deep roots in hospice. I'm the CFO nationally. I have been with VITAS now for 3 years. I am a acute care space guy though. I've worked in the acute care space for 22 years before I was recruited to VITAS. Funny story, I'm at VITAS because the gentleman sitting I'm speaking on the panel with today. When I was at Broward Health, the CFO, Jared had come in and said, "We need a hospice unit in Coral Springs." I said, "We have a hospice unit. You're not putting a hospice unit in Coral Springs." He's like, "Alex, I need a hospice unit in Coral Springs." I said, "No, Jared, no." He came back. "Alex, I need a hospice unit in Coral Springs." I said, "Jared, we got to work with Gold Coast on Health and Hospice. That's a Broward Health hospice, and we will not compete against ourselves." Jared ultimately comes back, and I said, "Okay, 6 months, Jared, 6 months, and if we can't get Gold Coast Home Health and Hospice operational, you can RFP the service." So Jared goes and RFPs the service, and it shined. It shined at Coral Springs. So I went back to the CEO of the system, and I said, "Jay, we need to divest our hospice. We don't do it well. We don't make money on it." Ended up divesting it to VITAS. Jared had brought VITAS into Coral Springs. About a year and a half after we divested the hospice unit at Broward Health to VITAS, they called me up and said, "Alex, we're looking for a CFO." I said, "No, I'm in a good place. I work with a great team. We do great work." And they said, "Alex, we need a CFO nationally." And I said, "No, I'm an acute care guy. I'm a system CFO, good place." And they came back again, and I did some research, and here I am. Best move I've ever made, guys. Let me tell you, I've had the opportunity to work with Jared and Melissa and Dave and many of you in the room over the years here, and Joe, if he would have been here. I work with 12,000 angels. The work we do is God's work. It's really incredible. It's beautiful work. I don't think enough people understand it. One of the things I made it my mission is to educate, particularly hospital administrators, on the value of hospice, what the benefit actually means and how the benefit actually works, and the impact that it can make on hospitals. And I hope that's a question that Rich asked me tonight and something that we can talk about for a little bit. So thank you. I look forward to the panel discussion. With that, I'll turn it over to Jared.
That's actually somewhat of a very true story, so thank you for sharing that part. And it was nearly impossible to convince Alex about switching to VITAS, but ultimately I got one right. So I'm Jared Smith, I'm the CEO for both hospitals, Bethesda East and West. I know Melissa obviously gave a great overview over the two campuses. Really proud to be part of Baptist Health. I spent my entire career here in South Florida. My background originally is in accounting and finance. I started with a company called Deloitte & Touche, and just by coincidence, they sent me out to a hospital in Miami in 1995 when I had just started and said, "You're going to Baptist Hospital in Miami." And everyone that I worked with who just started their job said, "You got to get off of that client. It's the worst." And I wasn't going to go back to the person who does scheduling and say, "Can I change?" Right? You do what you're told, right? You go, you keep it open. And this is for everybody that's looking for opportunities, the students at FAU. I went with an open mind. I just kind of followed the path, and I learned as much as I possibly could, and I fell in love with healthcare. And then you realize what the power of healthcare really is all about. It's been the best decision I've ever made by just probably staying quiet and just kind of just listening and being polite, perhaps. But my career went full circle because now, 20-something years later after that, actually probably even longer, oh my God, I'm so old, 30 years later, I now work for Baptist Health here in Palm Beach. So I've worked with several other systems, for-profit and not-for-profit, and I found my passion here at Baptist and fortunate about that. I'd like to share a story about Alex, though, because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. And this, again, is a learning opportunity for those that are, pursuing careers at FAU and getting your master's or your fellowship. But we both worked for Tenet Healthcare. And I had an opportunity after Alex left as the Chief Operating Officer at Good Sam, and he was going to that new role in Broward as the CFO. I was the next COO that was selected at Good Sam. My wife actually asked me, "Do you know what you need to do to be a COO?" I honestly said, "No, but I'll figure it out." Sure enough, Alex called me because we worked for the same company, but we really didn't know each other very, very well. But this is the type of person that he is. He says, "Look, he already left the company. He's already starting his new role." And he simply said, "Look, if I can help you, you've never been a COO. I can share with you the experience of a COO role. I can share with you what it's like to work with that particular CEO and that team. Why don't we meet for dinner?" And we met for dinner, and he gave me all the secrets that I needed to know. I would have been thrown out of that hospital in about 6 months unless he told me about the secrets of how that CEO worked. And fortunately, I was able to be successful in that hospital because everything that he absolutely shared and made a difference, and then that helped my career grow even better. So we've come full circle here, Alex and I see a lot of friends and colleagues in this room. And that's one of the benefits of being part of ACHE is getting to know people. This is a great organization to open up doors and pathways because we all work together in one way or another, and we're all here to help improve healthcare. And I applaud you, Brian, and Charles, and the board for what you're doing here with ACHE. So excited, Rich, to be on the panel.
I guess it's appropriate. You know a little bit about me. My healthcare background is a little bit more eclectic. I started working in Pricewaterhouse in their consulting division and in medical practice management back in the early 1980s, which was before medical practice management was on most people's radar screen. Then I worked for some consulting firms where we started managed care companies. We licensed 3 of them, so it's the next iteration of healthcare. Then I served in the capacity at Jackson Health System, where I ran the strategic planning function in 2 different stints. And then formed a consulting company that primarily worked in medical device, and we did everything in cardiology that you can think of. I used to work for Johnson & Johnson, and they had 192 companies at the time. So when we started the consulting firm and we knew everybody in J&J, it was a natural progression into the pharma space as well as into med device. And right now, I'm basically just helping not-for-profits that don't have very much money or any money. So I spend my time helping them through the strategic planning process. So that's just a little bit about me, and I think I'm just going to kick this off with just a very generic question. What's going on in the environment that's keeping you guys up at night?
Well, first, you can't be kept up at night. You got to find some quality sleep. There's too much to worry about every single day, so always find the right balance. What's keeping me up at night? This hospital and organization is just on a great path. I think, we want to go faster than we possibly can. We want to grow quicker. We want to build incredible services and build on the services that we have. For me, I want to accelerate our path to be an A-rated hospital and a CMS 5-star to be the very, very best designation in the country. We've got great accolades, don't get me wrong, but we're doing very well from the quality of care, from the overall patient experience, from safety, from the service lines that we have. Financially, we're doing very well. We're making great investments. But I just want to be able to demonstrate and get the trophy that we are the preeminent provider here in Palm Beach. So I would say until we kind of get that trophy, that's what keeps me up at night.
Okay.
And I'm going to jump out of my talk, so I apologize if I go on too much. I'm with Jared. There's not much that's going to keep me up at night, especially after running a health system through a pandemic. There were many sleepless nights when that happened. But now I think that if you are prepared, you're confident, you do the right thing all the time, you use data to support the decisions that you make, you know that the patient is the center of everything you do, and you put that first all the time, then you will be successful in healthcare. I live and breathe by that. Finance follows quality. And every time I've lived by that mantra, I've worked for or been part of systems that maybe they didn't start financially in a good place. But by the time we worked with leaders such as Jared and Melissa and David, we got those systems up and running where they were financially stable and in a good place. So it was about the patient being first, not worrying about anyone dying. Jared, maybe look at me like I'm crazy right now telling them that, but they're doing the right thing for the patient, and the finances will follow, guys, to be honest with you.
So, finance may be secondary, but when you look at different metrics, when you say, okay, how well am I doing? What are the metrics that you guys look at to determine whether you're really doing well or not? I told you it wasn't going to
I'll take that. So I'll start with the financial one. So for those of you guys that have worked with me in the room here, you know I look at everything financial in a hospital. So statistics-wise, we're going to look at admissions. We're not just going to look at whether or not we have an admission, but what that admission is. Is it a surgical admission or is it a medical admission? What is the mix of patients? Then we're going to look at what type of surgeries, what type of volume you have from an outpatient visit ER perspective, what is the conversion rate in the hospital, then going down and looking at the percentage of those patients that come into the hospital via EMS. And guys, by looking at all this data, just this top level statistics, you can tell how the revenue is going to perform in a hospital once you understand the hospital's finances well enough. You continue to drill down into the revenues, looking at, and I always looked at revenue per patient day. To me, the higher revenue per patient day was an indicator as to whether or not the acuity was there in the hospital. You can look at your case mix index as well. That's a lagging measure, so once the patient is discharged. Looking at average length of stay. And that gave me a good idea of the revenue component. Then productivity and labor management was key, and managing expenses. So, I looked at everything. David here managed the pharmacy. We probably gave him a little bit of a run for his money sometimes on pharmacy costs. Every day. But as a CFO, I made it my point to understand what was going on within the four walls of the hospitals that I was in, and we're at the health system level. On the quality side, we refer to Melissa and Jared and things of that nature. So.
I think Alex said it perfect, is quality drives finance. It's easy to look at finance indicators, the efficiency indicators, the growth indicators. Those are great just to see that we're heading in the right direction. And in any one of those categories, if you have more volume over the prior year, you have better payer mix, you've reduced your cost, you've improved your efficiency, you're always heading in the right direction. But the fact of the matter is, it's the stuff that you don't necessarily see. Yes, you can look at mortality indicators, readmissions, quality indicators, infections, and whatnot. But I look at the quality and the strength of the programs that we have, and our ability to recruit and have some of the best physicians in the country working right here. I was speaking with an individual earlier, and he mentioned to me, here in this room about one of their physicians at this hospital, Dr. Levely. He's a world-renowned urologist that's here. He's absolutely exceptional. He's built an incredible team. That's what's important to us. I look at the Boca folks. We work together to build the Lynn Cancer Institute programs out here, to build the Marcus Neuroscience Institute programs. We just recruited this past year one of the best he's our chief of cardiothoracic surgery, Dr. Brad Taylor. He ran the program at the University of Maryland, which is one of the best in the country. And we get to see now what he's able to do to take our program up to a whole nother level. And there are things that I've never even thought of or even understood because I don't have necessarily that background that he does. And the ability that he's putting in to make it safer for our patients, 24 hours a day, beyond what anybody else is doing. The quality of work that's happening at that level is what is super important to us. When we get that right in all of our areas and all of our subspecialties, it's absolutely amazing. So not necessarily indicators for that, but you get to see it. So it's hard to put a measurement on it, but you know it's going in the right direction.
And you know, as a finance guy, not necessarily getting as close to building programs and recruiting physicians, I could tell the work that they were doing just by looking at an income statement and looking at the metrics. I may not have known the details as far as who Jared was recruiting or what type of quality Melissa was driving in the hospital or how well Danish pharmacists were working with the docs to get the cost down. But when I looked at the income statement, it told me a story that they were executing on all of those items by volumes going up, surgeries going up, costs remaining flat, the patient satisfaction outcomes coming in nice. So, you know, from a finance perspective, you could read the story going on in the hospital by looking at the income statement and statistics that I mentioned earlier.
That's it. We'll get this forward. Okay. There we go. Patient mix here, both in terms of acuity among your two hospitals, as well as your payer mix, different between the two hospitals. Heavily Medicaid here, not so much at your other facility. Do you manage the two hospitals differently because of the difference in acuity index or payer mix, or is it pretty much the same?
So
I joined Bethesda about 3.5 years ago, and when I started, the structure was very different than it is today. And I think one of the areas that we really got right was the way we managed the two facilities. We have one team that manages both campuses. I see Juan here. Juan is our regional director of environmental services amongst 20 other roles that he does. He oversees it actually for Palm Beach for the 3 hospitals. We have one chief operating officer, Melissa, over both campuses, one chief nursing officer, I'm the only one CEO, one chief medical officer, and it carries down. We have one imaging director, one lab director. In certain areas where it makes sense, we have separate surgical service directors or ER directors. But generally speaking, there's such an incredible overlap, and what that has done for us is really created incredible teamwork. There's no us against them in our own system. We all work together because it's critical for our patients. Our hospitalists are the same, the intensivists are the same. So it's basically the same at both. There's differences in patient populations and some of the services, but it creates a culture of just always doing what's best for the organization. We shouldn't be competing against each other, and we don't. We should be competing maybe with somebody else, but not ourselves. And it's actually driven a higher quality of care and incredible teamwork, because healthcare is a teamwork sport, and you have to have a great, great team. And if hypothetically Bethesda West was short nursing, nurses from here will go over there, and vice versa, because it's all one team. And we need to just work that way throughout. There are certainly differences in payer mix. The payer mix is actually really driven because of the OB program on the East Campus. We provide some of the highest level of care for obstetrics in Palm Beach County. We're the only hospital that is a level 4 Joint Commission program for maternal care. So we take care of the most critical care moms and babies here. We serve the community. We're a faith-based organization, not for profit. We see a high percentage of Medicaid and unfunded patients because of that type of work that's here. When we have wraparound services such as maternal fetal medicine that wouldn't ordinarily be offered to patients. And so that drives the Medicaid mix on the East Campus higher than what it is at the West Campus. Overall, though, it's usually a third, and a third. 30% is Medicare, 30% is Medicare managed care, so combined with 60%. Another 30% is managed care, commercial, and then 10%, or if not less, is more on the Medicaid side, most of which, again, is on the obstetrics piece, because 60 to 70% of our deliveries are on the Medicaid side. But one team across, and I think that one thing we got right was that philosophy, and it's proven to be so successful for us. We can have a surgeon that wanted to go to West, hypothetically, but we can't accommodate them, and they can come here and we can accommodate, and everybody wins, you know? So a lot of work on that side.
Alex, you could have a very unusual reimbursement system, I think, for hospice, and then all of a sudden you have something called the Medicare aggregate cap.
Yeah.
So you may want to explain, how does that work, and operationally, what kind of problems does that cause?
Yeah. So hospice is basically a capitated rate. There's 4 levels of care. And each level of care gets paid differently. Depending upon where the patient resides in their zip code, you get a different rate. So routine home care, which is about 98% of the care that we provide, is your lowest cost reimbursement. I use about $200 a day. That may vary in California, Northern California, maybe up in the more 230, 240, and in Alabama, maybe down to 470 range. Then you have respite care, which is basically when you're giving the caretaker an opportunity to take a break, and we'll take care of that patient for 4 to 5 days while that caretaker gets to take a break, and there you get a little bit more, you get about $400 a day, and that care is usually provided in a nursing home. Then you have what's called continuous care. Continuous care is when a patient meets, goes in a crisis and meets basically hospital level care. We will have a nurse there with the patient for a minimum of 8 hours to care for that patient. And at that rate, we're looking at about $1,000 a day. And then you have GIP, which is general inpatient. That's where the patient's in the 4 walls of the hospital. The care can't be provided at home, or, in the 4 walls of the hospital, or in a hospice house, or we have a hospice, freestanding hospice unit here in Belgrade. And there you're looking at between $1,100 and $1,200 a day. You basically take the total number of days that you care for the patient, multiplied by the rate, and that's your reimbursement. It is simple, guys. Compared to what I had to deal with in the hospital, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. But you run into a little bit of an issue. 95% of everything we do is straight Medicare. Which is another beautiful thing, right? Like, you know, you drop a bill, you get paid. It's not like you're fighting with a managed care organization, you're dealing with a bunch of unfunded care or anything else. Most patients that need hospice care qualify under the Medicare benefit. When a patient is in the hospital, I tell this, and I did not know this, to be honest with you, 22 years of working in a hospital and you know, what I consider to be a CFO that took the time to learn things. When a patient has an MA plan, so a patient sitting in your ICU as a Humana patient, and that patient elects the hospice benefit, they roll off of Humana onto straight Medicare, so there's no need for an authorization. So talking about a way to move that patient along, get the patient to figure out that bed, and not wait for an authorization on the post-acute care side, and it's like incredible, this benefit. The difficult thing, is what Rich just alluded to, is the Medicare cap. So what Medicare has decided is they're going to put a cap on the total amount of revenue that you're able to generate per admission, per Medicare admission as a hospice provider. That rate's about $34,000 per admission. So if I have a patient that's on hospice services for 180 days, and I generate $34,000 and that patient passes away, I get to keep 100% of those dollars. If I have a patient that's on hospice services for 365 days, which hospice is supposed to be the last 6 months of life, but the There's a crystal ball there, right? You're prognosing the patient. You don't know when that patient is actually physically going to die or pass away. And some patients end up staying alive longer than what you had prognosticated. They're there for 365 days. I end up getting 70,000. I still can only keep 35,000. I got to give the rest back to the federal government. The reason it's called aggregated cap is because we get to aggregate the total number of admissions. It's $35,000 or $34,000 times your total number of Medicare admissions. So it's not as an individual patient. So the trick, which I learned the hard way, the trick is to have a nice balance of patients that are low length of stay patients, i.e. patients coming out of an ICU that are imminent. A typical patient coming out of an ICU in a hospital that gets admitted into a hospital hospice unit is going to have an average length of stay of 4 days. If we use $1,000 as a simple equation, you're looking at $4,000 worth of revenue. That gives me $30,000 worth of revenue to apply to the rest of the patients. And then you have a nice mix of longer length of stay patients. And when you have that balance, you can run a very successful hospice, right? And you can provide the caretakers with all the resources they need. As an example, right? Well, we're a publicly traded organization. We had a phenomenal 2023 and 2024. We focused on community access patients. Community access patients are non-hospital patients, is what we refer to them as. The typical length of stay is 90 plus days on those patients, but you'll have the longer length of stays, those that are there for over 180 days. But when you have the bulk of your patients as community access, you're not driving the safety you need from the aggregate cap. So in the state of Florida, we're under 1 CCN in the state of Florida. I got about 16,000 average daily census in the state of Florida. We ran too hard in 2023 and 2024 and built up too many patients with long length of stays that we ran into an aggregate cap. And I ended up having to pay back $18.5 million to the federal government. The Wall Street reacted, and we took a $100 hit to our stock price because of Wall Street's concern on the fact that we had ultimately stopped our ability to grow in the state of Florida. Every new patient or every additional day of care that we provided was free, which is not good. So we quickly, I went back and modeled, and I pulled my hair out and came up within the state of Florida. We should run in a range of 42 to 44% of our patients in the state of Florida should be admitted from a hospital. The balance should, again, if we want to run financially optimal, the balance of the patient should come from community access. With that mix of low length of stay and long length of stay patients, we now have runway to make sure that we have the ability to grow. With that mix in the state of Florida, I estimated that we should generate a cap cushion is what we refer to that as, and that's when we don't have to pay back money. So cap cushion is when you don't have to pay back. Cap liability is when you have to pay back. We took that $18.5 million liability, and we're sitting now, and it's on a Medicare fiscal year, we're sitting now with a $36 million cushion. So that is the complexity of hospice. That is the complexity of hospice finance. It's not the weight of the DRG, whether it's a surgical or medical patient, whether or not you're going to get paid or not paid because of a denial or an authorization, whether or not that patient's going to be in bed for too long, or whether or not you're going to have enough outpatient procedures. It is, can you manage the mix of patients to provide every patient that needs hospice care the access to the benefit?
Thank you. Anybody here from the federal government? Good, so I can behind the federal government, and I'm not going to end up going to jail or worse. To me, healthcare should be a pretty straight line. We treat patients, we get paid. But it's more like going to Mars and dodging space dust and comments along the way, and usually the name of the comments is the federal government and also managed care. Those are probably the two biggest issues of things that we have to navigate. I think most of the things right now coming out of Washington should give absolutely everybody pause. It's going to change, I think, how a lot of providers are able to care. It's going to change the services that they offer, and I think ultimately it's going to deteriorate patient care. So here's just some numbers of what the One Big Beautiful Bill Act and the ACA subsidy cuts mean. First, we're going to have 14 to 16 million additional uninsured. It's going to mean almost $800 billion in Medicaid cuts. Uncompensated care is going to go up by $187 billion, just 25 to 34 over the 10-year stretch. And the revenue losses, around $69 billion. Florida's going to be the hardest hit on a per hospital basis. So according at least to one study, it's going to average out to about $52 million per hospital. Then we start looking, and we're going to talk more about what the site-neutral payment policies. But that's another $182 billion over 10 years. I think personally, it's going to mean that safety net hospitals in particular, maybe not Memorial, because Memorial's done a really, really good job of managing their uncompensated care and their tax benefits, which virtually do not go for uncompensated care at all. Maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that too. So that's the issue. That's the backdrop, I think, of what going forward, what our operating environment is going to look like. So my question to my panel members here, has any of this stuff hit you guys at all yet? Are you anticipating more problems down the road?
Well, for clarification, that $52 million, I haven't seen it in that perspective, is that over a 10-year period, or is that per year?
It looked like it was going to be over a 1 year, over a 1 year period. To me, it looked high, by the way. But I looked at it twice, and that's what they're estimating. Well, even if it was half that or a quarter of that, it's a problem.
Yeah. I try not to worry. I mentioned that earlier, but that gives me a lot of concern. Right? And that is a huge, huge number. But we can't worry about everything, and I don't want to minimize this, but you have to put these in perspective in these type of roles and what we all do. We're here for the patients. And I'll never forget, because this is what I think defined me years ago, but I used to work with Melissa at a different hospital, and she was the ACNO. And Melissa and the chief nursing officer came into my office at the same exact time, and they said, "Can we talk to you?" I didn't know what they wanted to talk about. Right? Both of them at the same time, two clinicians, like, what went wrong? Was my immediate reaction. No, everything was fine. All right. Just remember, when you come in my office and both of you need to talk to me, and it's that perspective, that's what I learned worries me. Is there's only two things that we do in a hospital. One, make sure the patients are safe, high quality, we're providing the highest level of care. Everything else that we do is just financial. Everything else is financial. So as long as you're doing the first one okay, all the financial things, you learn to overcome. Alex had shared, we get hit with something, whatever it may be, this cut, that cut. We're healthcare administrators, we gotta rebound, we gotta figure it out, right? And so you'll figure it out. We'll figure out different things. We'll make adjustments, but we can't lose sleep at night kind of worrying about that. No, trust me, we work for a very large, strong organization. There's plenty of people on the financial side, on the legislative side, at the federal level, the state level, the local level, that track and understand this to a T of what that impact is. But what we always do is we just have to manage consistently. And whatever we do, we have to be efficient. Alex had shared years back an article that hospitals will go bankrupt at $5,000 a time, something like that, right? It doesn't seem like a lot of money in healthcare, but $5,000 at a time adds up really, really quick. So everything that we do, we have to run efficiently, we have to be smart, as we expand services, we need to expand them correctly, we need to manage correctly, because if you don't care about your finances today, and you get hit with a $52 million hit, there's no recovery. So we gotta just make sure that everything we do all the time is as efficient and appropriate, and we make good, smart decisions, not like waffle because of something that's happening. That will have a major impact. To answer your second part of the question, or the main part of your question, we're in the early stages with all the changes that are happening. We're only in June still. A lot of the changes that will affect us around the Affordable Care Act started going in January. I was just looking recently, and I looked at Oscar plans to see what they published. They have the same amount of members this year. I think it's 3.18 million versus 3.2 million for whatever geography that they were saying. So they still have people in plans. But what they're not saying is what's the quality of those plans? Did people change from a plan that had a lower deductible to now a higher deductible? Did they have the VIP plan and now that they have, it's more out of pocket and they're not covered? And we're gonna feel the effect of that really kind of starting now, kind of coming in because the payment cycle takes time to see everything through. On a positive note, our volume has been up significantly here, so volume heals a lot of wounds and covers a lot of that type of stuff, but we'll manage through it. We make decisions for the long term, not the short term.
I get to push back, because I have gray hair, and around for a long time. And I can tell you what it was like at Jackson Memorial when I was there, at least my first go around. The lines in our emergency room were around the block, because unfunded patients will use the emergency rooms as their primary care. We couldn't get women in time to get mammograms who had lumps and who ended up dying because we couldn't get them with the right imaging fast enough. And we got absolutely lambasted every time that kind of event happened in the paper. Unfortunately, I see these kinds of changes coming. And it may not be this year, it may be a year or two down the road. And I think some healthcare systems like Memorial and Baptist, who have been managed well and who have some reserves, I think that they might get through it pretty well. But I'm not so sure about other safety net hospitals, and I'm not sure what's going to happen to patients that show up in the ERs of a tenant or an HCA, which their only obligation, I think, is to stabilize the patient, right? So when it comes down to long-term care of these patients, it's going to become a lot more problematic. So I hope you're right. I hope we can manage through these things. But I just see where we're heading for something that is going to be not very good for patients and not very good for our healthcare system. I understand how funding for uninsured works in metropolitan Dade County. There's a 0.5 cent sales tax. It pretty much all goes to Jackson Memorial Hospital now, and it raises $380 to $400 million a year to care for the uninsured. In Broward County, what's interesting is that Memorial Hospital has been so successful that none of the ad valorem tax goes towards the unfunded. It's all totally funded because they're great operators with a great patient mix. And the little bit of money that they take goes for government programs. Broward Health, I'm not so sure. I think it's a little bit different. But here's what happened, and here's maybe where Alex, I think, can opine. And this is where I disagreed with some of the policymakers, both at Memorial and at Broward Health. What's happened is that the success of Memorial, my hypothesis, for Alex to corroborate, put a lot of pressure on Broward Health to also reduce the amount of property taxes that they were going to take for unfunded care. And so now we have a changing environment. We have an environment where we're all of a sudden having a lot more unfunded patients. And we also have a governor, by the way, that's saying, let's get rid of property taxes. I don't know where that's going to go. So what say you, Alex? Did Broward Health follow Memorial erroneously down this road of not taking very much in property taxes?
No.
Okay, good.
No. So Memorial was good operators, and Broward had a dark period. But I would say in 2017, 2018, Broward turned a corner, and we put operators in place, 2 of those operators standing here today, that changed the culture and changed the mindset at Broward from an organization that stood behind property tax and hid behind property tax to an organization that only wanted to use property tax as a last case scenario. Just to clarify, Rich, do I think that Broward will ultimately get off of property taxes? I think they've got a long ways to go. The fairness is absolutely different at Broward than it is at Memorial. The competition in North Broward is completely different than the competition in South Broward. Now, will that competition change over time? Absolutely. I saw Pierre here. Pierre is a talented CEO that is a direct competitor of Broward Health. Broward Health Imperial Point and Broward Health Medical Center. Memorial doesn't have those same challenges. Now, do I think that the work that is being done between Broward and Memorial will ultimately make Broward and Memorial stronger and make them more efficient? 100%. I think the work that Shane's doing better together is transformational for healthcare in Broward County. And I hope that he is able to get the legislation approved so that he can make that happen, however they structure it. But yes, they're 2 completely different systems with 2 completely competitive environments. If Joe Stasinski was here, I think 98% of his payer base is commercial managed care. I think Broward Health Coral Springs was the best payer base hospital, what were you, 35%. You can't compare those 2.
So we have Baptist over here on one side, who has generated enough money to be able to have all kinds of imaging centers and urgent care centers out in the community. They've done a great job of getting capital to be able to fund that expansion. How about for other entities? I mean, here you have a case where Broward Health could keep those revenues and use those revenues then for capital expenditures to be able to get more out in the community than what they've been able to.
Yeah, I do think Broward Health has expanded out into the community. I think they're in the process of opening now 3 or 4 freestanding EDs, one on Sunrise Boulevard, another one on US 1. Same strategy that Memorial is taking. I saw one come out of the ground. I drive by it every day on Memorial Parkway and Red Road. My concern is are we investing too much in freestanding EDs, and is the market going to saturate, and will there be enough patient volumes there to support the cost of running a freestanding ED? Outpatient imaging, we did that. We did that back when we were both at Tenet. I would argue that's a very tough business. You're running very, very low margins with high cost, high capital investment, and high, typically it's a rental cost of a building, and then you have to shell it out with all the lead walls and this, that, and the other. Outpatient surgery centers, I think, are a fantastic opportunity. And again, one of the strategic problems that Broward and Memorial has is the inability to joint venture. Per the regulations that establish these 2 special taxing districts, you can't joint venture. And an outpatient surgical center is successful when you joint venture it with the surgeons that are going to do the work at the outpatient surgery center. So to get the surgeons and attract the surgeons to come to a nice shiny outpatient surgical center that they don't have a vested interest in is very difficult. Urgent care, again, I think there's opportunity in urgent care. We tried urgent care. We weren't too successful. Again, you're not getting paid. You're getting $75 per visit. You're paying all this overhead for a mid-level physician to sit there to have X-ray equipment, this, that, and the other. I think Broward's doing a great job. I think Memorial's doing a great job. I think the more that we can do together, and I don't just mean Broward and Memorial, I mean Holy Cross, I mean HCA, I mean Cleveland Clinic, to identify the services that are needed in your market and provide the appropriate amount of services, not to saturate the market, to give everybody the care that they need, is the best thing that we can do, which leads to this value-based care, which is so difficult to get off the ground in North Broward because of the competition that's there. I'm sorry if that was long-winded.
No, that's good, because actually it's a good lead into my next set of questions. We have something called pricing neutrality. And basically what that means is no payer wants to pay more for a particular patient care procedure in one site versus another site. So if it costs them $50 to do it in a physician's office, why should I pay you more than $50 to do it in a hospital setting? So that's a problem. It's going to cost, if that goes through, and it looks like things are kind of going in that direction, that's another erosion of revenues, higher revenues, that a hospital is able to generate into a lower cost setting. So if I gave you guys each $10 million in capital, how would you allocate it, knowing what's going on in the environment today? Where would you spend your money? Understanding, by the way, that you cannot have the best imaging equipment, the most number of outpatient facilities, sprucing up everything. Your funds eventually are limited, right? So how would you spend that $10 million in capital? I don't have it, by the way. I'm just giving it to you fictitiously.
Well, what's amazing with the $10 million number, it's not even enough. The need is so great on the hospital side. You know, it's anywhere from 20 to 40, even $50 million a year what we're investing in capital for equipment, upgrading facilities, new technology, robotics, expansions. We're doing a lot of work. Where would I put it first? We're kind of putting it everywhere. I think it's so interesting in healthcare because no matter what the challenge is we still have to keep investing in these facilities. I was speaking with a person who worked in a for-profit hospital today. We were talking about ultrasound equipment. We replace it because of the quality of the images are so important for a person coming in for an ultrasound. It can make the difference of detecting cancer or not. You have to make investments. So, you know, the investments are enormous. Where would we put it? Where are we putting it today? Right? We are investing heavily in this facility here. We're investing $25 million in our emergency room. Why? Because we need our facilities to be state-of-the-art, to provide state-of-the-art care here. And we had to do a complete upgrade because we outgrew the facilities and they weren't what we need today. We're investing another $15 million here in this building alone that will be complete in November to upgrade imaging equipment. We're looking to expand Bethesda West because they're at 100% capacity and it's June. We don't have the beds and that's a good spot to be in. We're expanding access points off campus emergency departments. We just opened one this past year in West Boca Regional Team expanded that. It's been a huge success because patients want care closer to home that's convenient for them, where they want it and how they want it. And fortunately, the Baptist brand is such an incredible brand on quality and safety that the numbers have exceeded expectations, and that's driven more patients even to us here in Bethesda. So we're going to replicate that in Wellington, Royal Palm area, and have another emergency department up there. So the demand on the money, quite frankly, it's somewhat an endless need. It never stops. And that's just this year. Next year will be even more, you know, so it's just really incredible. So where would I put it? I put it into the outpatient area. Things continuously move more towards outpatient services. There's nothing that we can do to stop that, right? I can't say we should do orthopedics in this hospital. It's all moving outpatient. And we're going to just have to follow that. We're going to follow where the patients need to go, where the doctors want to go, what's being asked. So we'll continue to invest outpatient, same-day care, off-campus emergency departments, physician practices, because we believe here we can win on quality, access by being available. We don't want to have it take 6 months to get into specialist offices. And if we focus on all those type of things, we'll continuously grow. So, but I'll take your $10 million. We have a foundation. Want me to connect you?
So, to Jared's point, I would invest $10 million outside the hospital. Anything that we can do to again provide care in any other setting that we can besides the hospital. And I say that because I believe the hospitals are in for a reckoning here in the next 5 to 10 years. The amount of volume that's going to come into these hospitals, the demand that's going to come into the hospitals. So I told you guys that I was called by Vitas. I said no. What ultimately attracted me to Vitas is I did some research on hospice. And I learned in 2023, Medicare spent approximately $23 billion on the hospice benefit. United Healthcare was making more than $23 billion in a quarter. And here, this entire industry is getting paid $23 billion. The projections are that hospice is supposed to double in size from 2023 to 2032, bringing it to a $50 billion industry. Only 50% of Medicare recipients that die elect a hospice benefit, which means that even though the double in size of hospice patients, they will need hospital services before they need hospice services. So the capacity issues that Jared is having today on the west side of town, in his west campus that he is strategizing about, is going to be nothing compared to what he should expect to see in both his campuses over the next 3 to 4 years as the baby boomers continue to age. And what we need to do is figure out how to provide as much care as possible outside the 4 walls of the hospital, whether that's with remote monitoring, telehealth. Melissa is probably much more well-versed in talking about all the different healthcare options that you can provide in the 4 walls of the house rather than in the 4 walls of the hospital. But I would take that $10 million and I would do everything I can to prepare for patients not being able to get into the hospital because of capacity issues.
Yeah. I just got on my watch, by the way, there's a thunderstorm warning, so it means we're going to extend the time we have by a couple of hours. Would you guys okay with that? Okay, good. Before our time is up, I do want to touch on a couple of things. First, I would take my $10 million and I would spend it all on AI. And so what I want to find out is, what do you guys think about AI? Where are you going to use it, if at all? What do you see the problems are with it? Anybody out here using AI? Yeah, that's so it's already starting to proliferate in your jobs, by the way, right? Starting to use it. What do you guys think of it? What's its place?
Well, I think first, for Baptist, one of our major decisions that occurred about a year and a half ago was we made the decision to move our electronic health record to Epic. And Epic has a great backbone and everything that we need to do to run the day-to-day operations of the hospital, and gives us the platform to build on AI. Without that, we'd be left behind. And so, huge investments. The $10 million times probably another 50 is what's going into Epic. If you think about 28,000 caregivers, another 5,000 physicians, all going live on the same day, just about a year from now. As far as AI, I'm excited about it, but I'm also nervous about it. I look at the folks that run Lynn Cancer program, and the utilization of the AI is absolutely amazing. The technology that they've developed over there can help detect breast cancer, which would not be seen by the best fellowship trained mammographers that they have there, the best computer systems that they have there. So AI is detecting cancer significantly greater than you would without it. That's absolutely amazing for us to be able to have better diagnosis, better detection, and better care plans. It's going to make our lives a lot more efficient from a care perspective. If you think about what's happened over the years, all the computer systems that we put in and all the technology, it's taken us away from the patients. It's taken our nurses more away from providing the care. So I'm hopeful that perhaps now it lets them be nurses again and automate some of the things that they spend so much time on. You can have a patient, and we're setting this up with the new Epic system, but you can have a patient in a room, right? And we can record the conversation. And it'll help do all the documentation for the nurses live with the patient, so they're not sitting there typing it in, so that they can do a better job spending time with the patient, diagnosing the patient, than spending time in the computer with their backs to the patient. So I'm hopeful that things like that are going to improve it. For physicians, they'll have access to, Cosmos, to be able to query the system, to adjust with, did this go down? We got a little better, sorry. But to help with clericants and better management, so I think the opportunity is pretty amazing. I worry more from all of us, like what does it mean for the future of jobs and our economy? And we've got to reshape and tool ourselves and our team across the entire organizations to be better prepared and be better equipped. And on a personal note, I have an 18-year-old son going to college in 2 weeks. So what does this mean for his future? For me, all right, I got to make it another 10, 15 years, right? But for him, he's got a whole life ahead of him. How's AI going to impact him? It used to be for all of us, right? You got out there and you worked hard, you rolled up your sleeves, and you just got it done. But now with the technology, who knows? But I'm excited on the hospital side. I think it's going to really allow us to improve our care.
Are you concerned? Can you guys hear me in the back? Yeah. Okay, good. Are you concerned that the managed care companies are sitting there using AI to limit the amount of expenditures they have and making patients stay shorter and optimizing their contracts? If you don't have that capability, are you at a disadvantage?
Well, anybody hear it from the plans? Usually the fourth group folks are always out and out. Look, 100% that's going to happen. The technology is going to be used on all sides. I look at, we just had the UFC on the lawn of the White House not too long ago. You're going to have two bots, the managed care bot, the hospital bot fighting each other on national TV, figuring out the denials, right? Everyone's going to power up. We see it because you can get automatic denials so quick of what's happening. So I think we will leverage technology and those type of tools to ensure we're getting paid correctly, that we're getting paid for the services that we render. And everyone's going to be powering up. It gets tricky in managed care though, because we also contract with them on what you can do legally between two entities. So we got to work through those type of things with them. But everyone's going to power up. And perhaps, we'll get to a level playing field where perhaps admissions could be more approved quicker, authorizations could be better, payment could be more accurate, make it a level playing field. Thoughts on that?
I think it actually can provide hospitals an advantage. Where before I used to say, when we were at Broward, here, we generate $1.5 billion of revenue. And like I said, United is generating more in bottom line performance on a quarterly basis in the whole hospice industry. How can we compete? We're a piece of sand on a beach. They have all the resources in the world to do everything they can and invest everything they can in figuring out how not to pay us. I think AI is going to give hospitals the opportunity to generate tools that give hospitals an advantage and compete against managed care organizations. Whether that is making sure that all the documentation is appropriately there, whether the diagnosis is appropriately managed, when the need for the discharge is needed and where the authorization is sitting. So I'm actually excited from the regard of competition from a managed care organization and where AI, the advantages it could bring to a hospital. To answer your question earlier on, do we utilize AI? What are our concerns on AI? I have the same concerns that Jared had, more on a personal basis. What happens with my 7-year-old daughter when she needs a job and how far AI is going to advance. And we're resilient. I said hospital administrators I think Jared said hospital administrators are resilient. When we looked at pay cuts, I think human beings are resilient. We'll figure it out, right? The world changed with the cell phone. The world changed with the internet. The world's changed multiple times over, and we figured it out. My biggest concern as a CFO when we started looking at different AI platforms is with such a rapidly advancing technology, who do you decide to partner with today? Who do you decide to invest in today? And what's to say that there's not going to be somebody knocking on your door that's doing it better tomorrow? And do you end up with a menu of AI technology within your organization that now you are either tripping over yourselves, you're wasting a ton of money? That to me is the biggest challenge in my head, is where to invest those dollars, how to make the decision to partner with the right AI organization, the one that's truly going to stay one step ahead of the curve. That to me is the biggest challenge.
Okay. ACAG mandates that I leave at least 10 minutes for questions. So we're going to start with the questions now, and then if we have time, I'm going to do what I call lightning round with these guys, where they have 3 seconds to answer a whole bunch. So anyway, do we have any questions in the audience for our panel members?
Hi, my name is Jacob Wiener. I'm a current health administration major at FAU. My question for you guys is regarding AI when it comes to patient care. Say, like, you have a patient who doesn't have a designated surrogate or a designated, not a surrogate, they call it a power of will, a power of attorney. What do you do in that case? Because AI is becoming more implemented in healthcare. And what do you think it's going to do for patient care in that sense?
Just speaking personally, I don't want AI making healthcare decisions for me. I think AI can help help guide the clinicians, but I'm not going to go in and ask ChatGPT or Gemini or any of them, what should I do, and should I allow the Bethesda surgeon to come to me and do whatever. That's just my thought. I don't want that.
At the end of the day, you're always going to have physicians and clinicians making the ultimate decisions. They can leverage the tools, the technologies, but that's never going to be relinquished where it's probably automatic that decision is taken away from a doctor. I brought up the memo, the use of AI at Boca Regional, but there's still a breast-trained mammographer that is making the final call and decision of what they're seeing in the diagnosis. So I don't know if that necessarily will change. I think it ultimately, though, it'll give better information, speeds things up. It allows us to focus maybe on patients that are sicker. Imagine an AI in the emergency department where now you can get a real-time diagnosis to find out who's really critical, who's facing sepsis, and who can go home, and we can focus on maybe the more critical patients. So there's a lot of opportunity here.
Thank you for your question.
Great question.
Hi, Nicole Van Bell and Keen Insights. I wrote it down, so I'm going to read it to you. My question. So you talked a lot about patient care, which is the highest, most important thing that we do. How do you account for the way that leadership turnover and the workforce frontline instability is happening now in regards to the care outcomes and the cost for delivering them?
So I think Baptist has always had a philosophy. If you go back
in 1990 or so, it was just one hospital, and it was run by Brian Keeley, and he recognized the opportunity to partner with South Miami Hospital because the hospitals together separately weren't going to make it. And over the 40 plus years that he served as the CEO and his team, there's been some principles for Baptist that allow us to be very, very successful today. It's a culture of a warm, welcoming culture, how we treat our employees. Our employees are the center of everything that we do. We survey our employees 3 times a year because we want a whole view of the entire company in those shots, but that doesn't mean it stops every day in between. That's our number one asset. If we can get it right for our employees, we can get it right for our physicians and then ultimately our patients. So turnover is super important. We want to make sure we retain the very, very best. At the CEO level, I'm fortunate, I'm probably the only CEO that joined Baptist from the outside in a decade or 15 years, right? We're always looking for great, great people throughout, but when we get them, we never want them to leave us, Right? We want them to grow and develop with us. So the leadership turnover is critical that we're doing what it takes to maintain the very best team. It's beyond compensation and benefits. It's learning opportunities. It's our magnet programs that we have a journey on to be the very, very best. It's giving them all the resources that they need to run their jobs effectively, to make sure they have the appropriate staffing and whatnot. So we do, I think, an excellent job to manage that turnover. And at the same time, because of all those factors, it's a little bit easier for us to recruit the very, very best to come and join us. Because this is a true pathway for getting the very, very best people. And so our turnover rates are very low. Now, when COVID happened, that all thrown out the window. But Baptist has always led in those areas. So the bottom line is, it's given us a position to have a lower turnover, stronger management. Every time you lose a person, a nurse, the cost of the capital, the human capital is so great. You know, if there's a new CEO here, it's going to take him several years to catch up to where I am today, right? Whereas we can go that much further by having a strong team. So, you know, in summary, those are all real challenges, but we invest all day, every day in getting it right for our people. It's our number one, and I think it's what's made us very successful over the years. Yeah. So if you're ever interested in joining Baptist, please, you know, I always tell we have our entity welcome when we have our new hires. But I congratulate everybody because we hired the very, very best. And I also say to them, congrats, because we're all going to retire at Baptist. They never need to leave. We all, if you're on a journey of growth, you know, I mentioned the off-campus emergency department, that creates opportunities for new leaders, for people that have been here to go there now and expand their skills. And so it's just part of the fabric of who we are. Thank you.
Jonathan Ward of HWL. First, thank you for recognizing Dr. Liverly. He just took care of my daughter. So he's awesome. Great person too. So my question's around the payer side, and I've heard a lot of noise around Medicare Advantage and the challenges in Medicare Advantage for healthcare systems dropping Medicare Advantage. What's your view of that? Where do you think that goes? And what's the impact?
I think life is certainly a lot easier when a patient is straight Medicare. There's a lot of steps that are put in place because of their model, and it makes it harder for us and the patient sometimes. You know, we just have to manage patients, you know, the same, but it creates different hurdles. If it's a Medicare Advantage type of plan and a patient really needs rehab, what we would deem as inpatient rehab, you know, there may be an option or a preference to refer those patients to a skilled nursing unit versus what we would think is a better choice maybe for rehab and for those patients to do better. But they have their processes. It creates hurdles, keeps patients in the hospital a little bit longer. Patients may not want to go to those skilled nursing units that are in their network, so that creates another barrier. Comes back to us because the patients stay longer in the hospital until it ultimately gets worked out. So it certainly creates barriers, but it's 30% or so of the patients that we see here, so we have to manage through it, and we work closely with the different plans to work through barriers and challenges, you know, but they provide a good program for patients that need perhaps a lower cost of care and can't afford the same insurance coverage, you know, so we just got to manage around it. It would be easier if it was just Medicare.
Hi, Linda Sinisi from Thriving. I know in the opening you mentioned that there's a lot of recognition that has been shared around Baptist and that you want to even take it beyond that point. And I'm just curious, what would it be that you think would bring you to the level that you think you should be at? What do you need to do that?
You mean for us to be at the level?
Yes.
So I look at the hospitals in Miami. Baptist Hospital in Miami is our flagship hospital. I don't know if have you seen that campus before? Anybody who's been there? All right. We're tertiary care, but they're more along the lines of quaternary care. The institutes that we focus on around Baptist in heart and vascular, oncology, orthopedics, and neurosciences. they are just so far ahead of any other hospital that I've seen in the state of where they're at. It's really just truly exceptional from just optimizing quality in every which way. It's not to say that we don't have that same level of quality here, but the whole program, it's a city within a city over there. I mean, they may have 5,000 employees, they have 1,000 beds, so they're just at a different level of scale. We've been a small community hospital since 1959, 65 plus years, built by the community for the community, so we do excellent work here. But I feel like we have a great opportunity with Boca Regional to how we put together programs together between Boca and Bethesda to do the very same as to what they're doing there. And so we're not years away, we're very, very close. So a good example is the work around limb cancer. Limb cancer is the go-to cancer program here in Palm Beach. It's truly, absolutely amazing, the work that they do. Well, we're building on what they have here. We're bringing in our oncologists as part of limb cancer. They're going to be starting here in the next couple of months. We're expanding the protocols around how we provide the women's care. So it's an extension of that. So before you know it, limb cancer has been able to have grown even further up here in the Boynton market. And it's the same thing on the heart and vascular and other things. To be able to put up, as an example, on the heart and vascular program, every hospital in Palm Beach used to have a guy or two, right, or lady, but that would be their heart surgeon. We're doing it differently. We're standing up a team that's going to cover both hospitals. And that allows us to provide stronger physicians that can really focus on particular aspects of heart disease than just cabbages or valves or TAVR or whatever it may be. And put together the best team, because that's what those doctors want too, to provide the highest level of care and have the strongest team, not just a guy or two. So I think it's kind of coming together. Care is absolutely excellent, but I think until if everybody in this room could honestly say that Bethesda is the preeminent provider, the go-to, until we get to that spot, we're not there yet. And that's what I really, really wanted to see, is I think we have every opportunity to do that in Palm Beach, with Boca, of course, that is Baptist. I think we're on that path, but that's the desire, and I do believe it's achievable. So.
One more question? Got a question here. Hi, my name is Dharma. I'm a principal at Barris & Partners. We're a healthcare real estate consulting platform. I have a question about your real estate strategy overall. We see that as systems gain scale and as they become larger and larger, they tend to throw a lot of fixed costs into building the biggest and the brightest buildings, and I guess it brings more reputation, a lot of visibility to the hospital system. How do you see real estate being a lever to reduce and perhaps lighten the balance sheet and also improve your P&L, your income statements in the day-to-day? Do you see real estate as being that lever at all in improving your financial performance?
Well, real estate is a huge challenge right now, because if you want to expand or open up services, the cost to do that, besides the real estate and the construction, is tenfold what it was just years ago. So real estate is a major problem. It's a big factor for us to be able to expand the right services in the right markets. So if we don't own property, we're actively looking to make sure that we have properties, for the future. The Royal Palm Wellington strategy, that piece of land was probably acquired 8 to 10 years ago before we ultimately built on it. So that was a good decision ahead of time. Where we can, we prefer to buy the real estate on our campuses. So a good example, when Bethesda Hospital was built, it took a significant amount for a community hospital to build that hospital. They didn't have the money to build a medical office building too, so they had partnered with a company to build it. But when a first right of refusal opened up, we had the opportunity to buy it. And that allows us to make sure we're making the decisions that are best for our campuses and best for our hospital, and the physicians and tenants that are in those buildings are supportive of the services that we're providing at the hospital side. So I think, look, real estate's not going down in value, so I think You just gotta make sure you have the right properties and the right locations and take advantage of that. But we don't always have that luxury, so you gotta find the right services at the right size so that you don't build all these fixed costs that you can't overcome. So it's a challenge. If you can get real estate at a good market now, we would be expanding probably even quicker.
Perfect. I appreciate both Alex and Jared's insights along with Dr. Richard. Thank you all very much. As you can see, I put some additional QR codes up here. Everyone loves QR codes. This time, instead of registering to be here, there's the evaluation for tonight. We want your feedback. We want your input. We want to understand how you're enjoying this, what you would like to see. So please make sure to take a picture of that. You also have the QR codes on the table. Again, I want to thank the panel very much for the robust conversation. It was absolutely amazing. Again, thank you to Vitas and Bethesda for hosting us here tonight. It was an absolute amazing dinner. I got to finally eat in the back of there for a little bit. So thank you all very much. And if you have some time, stick around, talk to some colleagues here. I know there's a lot of students in the room. Talk to some people. You saw people raise their hand before that they're fellows. You've seen a lot of the panelists up here. You've seen a lot of different people here. Now's the time to network and really get to know each other. It's the best place to do it, and it's in an environment that's friendly. It's not intimidating when you have to go into someone's office or do something along the lines of that. So enjoy. Thank you very much. Again, thank you to all the sponsors and everyone for being here tonight.
Thank you.